Good evening, people. I'm going to let everybody sort of arrive before I delve into this evening's webinar. Um, I'll give it like 30 seconds because I've just got a bit of a thing in my eye. So I'm going to give it 30 seconds for that. Okay, so welcome to the FASD Hub webinar this evening. I am delighted to welcome Alice Foote as our guest this evening. Alice is 30-year-old. I don't think she'll mind me sharing that because she told me it with FASD. Alice says whilst FASD can be challenging, success can also be achieved. And I think that's crucial to start our webinar, really. So, along with advocating, Alice also works part-time as a debt collector, which helps to pay for a car, she says. And I'm sure my daughter would agree that if she can have a car one day, she'd be like delighted. And probably a position she never expected to be in. One of Alice's goals as an advocate is to help families and individuals with FASD to understand that transition to adulthood, that it isn't all doom and gloom. And as parents, I'm sure, I'm a parent, I'm sure we all think, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to our children? Are they going to live independently? Will they be able to drive? Are they get, we just, perseverate very much like we're told individuals with FASD do. We perseverate about our own kids. So I want to say, Alice, welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening.
No problem at all.
We've got lots of questions, and our audience have also submitted many questions. And their questions I have sort of read extensively. And then I've sort of combined them into the questions that I've put together and tagged a few on the end. And obviously, we've spoken, and I've sent you the questions so that you weren't overwhelmed with me just firing millions of questions at you. So I've sort of split the questions into areas that I feel our audience want to know, and also to make it something that for you can probably put it into boxes and make it more manageable for our audience. So I would really like to start talking to you about life skills and independence, because for all the families we work with, most of them are worried all the time about what's going to happen when their children get older. So my first question to you is, what helped you most in learning to live independently as an adult with FASD?
Well, so to sort of explain a little bit about how I was diagnosed. So I was diagnosed at birth, and then I wasn't told that I had FASD until I was 16 years old. So all the way from school, I didn't know there was anything wrong with me. And then sort of balancing up through life, I've moved out for a year when I was 21. But I mean, sort of independently, I have my own sort of structure. So as we know, I drive a car, so my insurance comes out a few days after payday. My taxes every year, so that it makes it a little bit more manageable. I know that as long as all my important bills are out of the way, it means the rest of the money is my own money. I can spend that money. I'm not going to worry about getting into any sort of debt or having to owe anyone any money, missing any payments. And it was the same sort of when I moved out. So when I lived out of the house for a year, I had everything coming out at the start of the month. So as soon as I were paid, my bills were paid, and then the rest of the money was mine. So I knew that I'd have a roof over my head. I would have gas, electric, all the important stuff done. And then there was always, I mean, now I also put about £100 to £200 away a month, as well as like we call it savings, but it's mainly savings, but also emergency money, especially someone who has a car. In case anything goes wrong, I've always got backup money as well. So, and that was down to my grandparents because I had to. They taught me a lot about money.
That's amazing though, isn't it? So you learn from your grandparents the
Mhm.
importance of having an emergency fund. And I think that's probably one of the biggest areas that as parents of young people with FASD is going to be a challenge to put in place because it's
Yeah.
the impulsivity of spending, isn't it? It's like, oh, I'll save, I'll save, I'll save. Oh my goodness, I've got £100. Oh my goodness, I'm going to spend £100 because I've saved it. And it's like there's no forward thinking at times.
Well,
So,
this is it. I tend to go into it sometimes a little bit as well, and I'll sit down and go, I'll just take £100 out, and and because I'm only taking so little out, I try and take a little bit out, and then I'll make sure that I put the
a little
most
bit.
I can away the next month to make sure that I'm not kind of, sort of backing myself in that sense.
So, how did you manage learning to drive? Because this is a like massive thing with
Hmm.
families we work with. And were there any supports or strategies that made that possible? Because I know today with this whole, you've got to do the online thing first, and neurotypical people struggle. My son doesn't have a diagnosis of anything, but I think he didn't pass till the third time. So I'm like, how did you manage that huge feat of learning to drive?
So, um, so I do drive. I drive manual car, and I now I can't stand automatic cars, and I feel it's because I don't feel like I'm in control. Whereas in my brain, because I know that once I set off 220, 330, and so on and so forth, it makes it a little bit easier for me. I know when I need to change my gear. I know that if it's a 30, I need to be in gear three. So it makes it a bit easier for me in that sense. Um, Learning to drive, I, I don't know if it's anxiety or what, but I'm very cautious of being on the road. I always see when things are coming out. I look in mirrors all the time. Um, but in regards to the theory, I passed my theory on the fourth time, I believe. So you have to learn 750 questions, and in them 750 questions, you do not know what you're going to get when you have your test, and your test is 50 questions. So, one of the things that helped me is if I was like driving, I'd do my theory there because I know years ago you used to do it when you was on the road anyway. So, if there's a question or anything that came up, I would mention it. Even if I'm in a taxi, I'd go, "Oh, that's I mean so and so." Or if I went past a tyre place, so I know I failed on what my tread needs to be for a tyre. And because it came up in one of the failed questions, because I was constantly revising it, if I went past a tyre place, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's 2.5 millimeters," and I only knew that because I'd drilled it that much into my head that I felt like I couldn't fail it. I mean, I did, and you don't know what questions you're going to get, and you don't know what scenarios you're going to be when you're out on the road. They're asking me about um, towing caravans and things like that. I don't know when I'm going to see a caravan. So when I did see a caravan, I'd be up and I'd be, googling it and making sure that I was ready and prepared. And then if you passed another one, I'd be asked questions by whoever's driving to make sure that I knew what to do in certain scenarios. So that really helped.
Do you think you're just like massively driven though by being brought up by your grandparents and them like massively supporting you? Because you just seem to me like somebody who is, I'm gonna achieve anything. I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah, that is, yeah. I'll never give up. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something. I might take a break, but if I need to do it, I need to do it. I mean, if you think about it from this point of view, is without a car. If I look back 5 years ago when I passed my test, advocating or anything like that. Now that a year, sort of like 6 months on from when I started my job, because I can travel for work up to another office, and then months down the line I started advocating, which means I can get to meetings, I can travel to different conferences. I could have, for all that people knew, I could have been sat in my car having this webinar, and my car is basically my office. So I do a lot of work from there. Because I'm always out on the road, I'm always visiting and doing things to be able to kind of do what I do now.
I think that's amazing. I think it's absolutely amazing. So, what are some of the hardest adulting skills for you to learn, and how did you overcome those challenges?
I liked this question. Um, One of them is cooking. So bill management and everything like that. Yes, I can do that. Cooking. Mm-mm. No, 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 no. My partner is a qualified chef, and he does 95% of the cooking. Um, if I do cook, or attempt to cook, I will try and do it on my own. I know what ingredients I need. I know how long things take. But like if there's certain things I can't do, my partner will sort of sit either, because he's got like a kitchen dinette, so he'll sit sort of in the dinette, or he'll sit in the living room, and then if I need support, he'll come and shout me. So when it first started, he would kind of stand behind me, and I've sort of to explain to him that you have the qualifications to be able to do this. My brain has to really figure it out before I can even do certain stuff. I mean, we've got an air fryer now, which is an absolute godsend. They do make things a little bit easier, but I still do like the old fashioned pan. And um, my next goal in cooking is to actually do a Sunday dinner, because I did used to make them, and I think I've completely lost track of how to do it. I've not done it in
Do
such
you
a long
think, do you
time.
think though, like they say the air fryer is amazing and it's amazing and it changes the world, but
Mm.
like when I mean I have an air fryer, but I look at the air fryer and I think, would my daughter be able to manage the digital display? I mean, at 14, she's 15 this year, so but then she has like real struggles with abstract concepts and time, and
Mhm.
yes, she could read a label. But then even when you can read the label, once you go to the air fryer, it's not just about reading the time, because then
Yeah,
you've got to go, is it bake or air fry or this or that? So there's four choices on that side before you do the time. And like
yeah,
even though I think food companies are getting better at saying on the back air fry, what I've
mhm,
noticed is it doesn't go into the depths for a person with FASD to say, put the air fryer on air fry or
yeah,
bake or cook. So I think my daughter would struggle with using an air fryer at the moment.
yeah.
But she can use a pan
Mhm.
and cook fried eggs, scrambled eggs. She can do that because she's watched me over and over, and it's very simple, isn't it? It's like
Yeah,
get the pan, put the oil in, either crack the eggs and do fried eggs, or put the
mhm.
eggs and mix them a bit, and then so she can do those things. But I just think still the air fryer seems great, but not if you've got all those brain things going on where it's not clear.
And we said the same thing. So like when I first got it, and my partner was like on about getting one, and I turned it on, and I'd seen him do it, and I'm like, right, I need you to stand next to me, and I need you to talk me through what to do. Don't do it for me. Talk me through it. If you talk me through it, it will then register in my brain what I need to do. So the ninja, we've got one of them ninja ones.
Yeah.
So it does everything at a certain time. So like you change it to air fry, then you do your temperature, and then you do your time. So for me, it gives me a little bit more structure. So I know that to press a certain button, I'm doing my temperature, and then it goes on to the timing. As long as I know not to get those two mixed up, I should be all right, which I haven't done yet.
So it's so true, Alice, because my daughter has just decided, and I'm sure this is like her need to show. I don't think it's a need for independence. I think it's a need for showing that she can do things. So she's now very
Yeah.
keen to do her own washing, and she only goes to school 4.5 days a week, 4 days a week, so she doesn't go to school on a Wednesday. So today she came down, she brought all her washing, she sorted it all out, whites, coloured, darks, etc. And she likes to do it. She wants to put it in the washer, she wants to put it all on. And then she came through, I was working today, and she came, Mum, can I put whites with grey? And I went, no, keep all your whites separate because that keeps them really white. But it's
Hmm.
just, it's just like I have shown her just the fundamentals of doing a basic wash. So every wash she does, if she sorts everything, can just be on, a 45-minute wash at a set temperature, as long as she sorts her things. So her procedure is turn the washer on, turn it 2 times to the left, fill these two things, close it, press start. And I'm like, she's not even 15 till the 23rd of this month, but bless her, she's done 3 loads of washing today. And I'm like, that's a huge success for her.
And it's how you just worded it then as well. So you've, like you said, turn it on, click it 2 ways. And that's how I do it. Like, I know it's a 40 wash, like, like, obviously I'm an adult and I should know these things, but I know it's a 40 wash, but I don't register it at 40 wash. I register it as 2 clicks. As soon as I know it's 2 clicks, then I know it's ready to go. If you change the settings on your washing machine there, oh my God, it's like the
Oh
world's
yeah, she
over.
would be absolute. Honestly, if I check, because mine is literally click, click, press start.
Yeah.
But I just think there are ways, aren't there, to support and scaffold young people with FASD to have success. So I'm going to now move on and ask you about education and employment.
Hmm.
So, what was your experience like transitioning from school to the workplace?
Um, well, so when I so I left school, I went to college, and I really, really, really wanted to be a primary school teacher because I absolutely loved my reception teacher, and she's now actually the head teacher at my old primary school. And I had my heart set on it. Went to college, and after 6 months or so, I dropped out. And then I an did an MVQ, and that was classroom based. But I stayed at that one, and that was for about 4 to 6 months. And then I went back to college to do something completely different. They all were different. Um, Dropped out again after about a month, 2 months, and then I went back into doing, and I did 2 apprenticeships. And I've noticed for me is that when I moved, the way that I learn, even though I learned that way in school, is I don't learn in a classroom. And it took me all that time to realise that actually classroom based learning isn't my style. It's not what I do. Um, so transitioning into college was actually quite exciting because Um, I was bullied in school. I was bullied in school for being different. Clearly never understood why. I just thought I was a weird kid. But I have this condition and I can explain it now and I can explain why I am the way that I am. But to go into a college and meet all these new people, personally for me, because I'm such a people person and I've always been around people, I found it quite exciting. And there was one person in my school who was there, and she was really nice. So it was never really an issue. I think the issue with finding my way around. I knew how to get to the library because it was like you walk through the gates and you go straight on, and that's where the library is. But because it's such a new environment, it was making sure I knew where everything was. You didn't have like a map like you would have done at high school or anything like that. But the more I did it, the more I just, and as long as I stayed with someone, um, we all sort of went to class, we all sort of met up before we went in. It was kind of a bit like school. We all went for a coffee before we started. So it gradually I sort of had a pattern of go this way, go that way, and then I knew how to get to which different classroom. And I think as well, like looking back, as someone with FASD, because it's a little bit more relaxed, you're not as strict, you can kind of wear what you want, it was just a bit more comforting in that sense. It were more, I don't know, you were treated as a person and not as a student, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, I think that's
yeah,
like really important, isn't it? That I think we look at individuals, whether they're neurotypical or neurodivergent, and I think definitely now there's like much more of an open view on students and just the public as a whole, that we need to embrace those things. But I still feel that it's like we're way, way, way past perfect in
yeah,
that. I think when you go into those provisions where there is an acknowledgement of the fact that there are people who come into an environment who are neurodivergent, the the accommodations that you need to make are really not huge, but
mhm,
the benefits are massive if it's done right. And
yeah,
I mean, I've seen it firsthand for my daughter recently, but just within my own small team, I just see where we talk about that all the time, and I think it's so powerful when you talk to people where in a situation somebody has just acknowledged that neurodivergent people need a slightly different thought process to move
mhm.
forward. And actually, it's not a big deal if you do it, but the outcome is massive for the
That
person.
That's it, and I think another thing as well is when you're in like college, you're not doing subjects you're bored of. So like I think we get called naughty kids, we're not naughty kids at all. We're children who are just struggling to kind of get his head around what's going on, and we're probably bored and we probably need stimulating, and we're not getting it. Like I failed citizenship. I never classed as a naughty kid at school because I just sat in the corner. Um, but like it I wasn't getting anything from it because I wasn't enjoying that subject. I hated that subject. I don't want to talk about politics and leadership and things like that at 15. I want to go do science lessons and do experiments, and then I want to go learn about childcare, and that's kind of what I was into. So the health and social care, I loved health and social care, loved English. Hated citizenship. I didn't like RE. I've learnt more about RE since leaving school, but also it's not stimulating. College, you've got so many options, and you're going into college to do something you want to do. If you do a subject you don't want to do, you're not going to enjoy it.
There's a question popped up now from a
Hmm.
young person.
Okay.
So, how do you feel when you had FASD in school? How did you feel then? But I'm thinking you probably didn't know in school you had it.
Yeah, so I didn't find out I had it until I'd left school by the time I knew. So I'd passed my GCSEs before I knew I had FASD. So even though I was diagnosed at birth and my family knew that I have it, they didn't it was never I was never told until I left school. I think the reasoning behind that is because I was very poorly when I was in hospital when I was born, and when I went to my grandparents, it was like a miracle that I somehow got better, and I use that very lightly because I perceived as a child without a disability because of how I am as how I've been brought up. Um, but now we are starting to notice it a bit more. Probably because I'm unmasking it a lot as well, which I'm a lot more comfortable with. I think I was masking without realising it, but I never knew I had it. So in regards to school, I was, I was just different, you know.
Hope though, Alice, like, did you go like mainstream, in England, GCSEs, all of that? How did you manage that situation? Did you get your GCSEs? Was it a struggle? Was it hard? Was it?
I mean, it was subject dependent with me. I mean, kind of, going back to whether I enjoyed it or not, but I struggled with maths. Maths was my biggest one. I mean, I got a D in an E in an E in maths, um, and then because we did ours a bit earlier, and then we had the chance to resit if we wanted to. Well, if we could. So when I got put into this kind of lesson where we'd all didn't hit our grade, and then we were put in, but then I hit a D, and even though it's not the C that I wanted, I still upgraded to where I wanted to be. So I'd still, in a way, passed it in my own head.
Yeah.
So like little things like I think it was because it was a bit of a smaller class as well. Because mainstream school, you've got like 30 kids in a class and one teacher, so their attention is all over the place. Whereas I think if it was like a smaller school, then maybe I would have done better. Would I have
Yeah.
enjoyed it more? I don't know. But I'm also very grateful to have gone through the mainstream school so that looking back, as part of the advocacy work that I do, I can sit there and go, actually, yeah, I think if they'd have known about it, it would have been different. And that we could have put provisions in place to maybe help me achieve more.
Yeah. Yeah. But amazing that you went through mainstream school, I think, because so many struggle today. But I'm guessing, mainstream school has probably changed substantially since you were there as well, in
I know.
terms of, well, I think the government pressure on the repeat taking of exams,
Mhm.
was that there when you were there?
Possibly. I mean, maybe that because I took my exams in like November, and then I retook them again. So if I didn't pass it, I retook it in like the June, July. And then it was like it was weird with English because I passed English. I got a C in English language. But then in the short space between the November and the June and July, they have us doing English literature, and that's a whole GCSE. So it's a lot of work to cram into such a small space of time to get. I think even someone who's neurotypical to pass that. I mean, I did, and I got a D, which was quite good because I loved reading. But your brain can't take that much information in such a short space of time to pass a GCSE.
No, absolutely. Okay, let's move on to talking about relationships and parenting, because that's always a big thing for our teen parents. So how have you found navigating relationships and family life with FASD?
The one thing I have noticed is I'm very. I didn't think it was a thing at first, but I've actually got an attachment issue to my grandparents. So, so they're my kingship carers. They brought me up. They went through a massive legal battle to get custody of me, and I left home for a year, and I was living with an ex partner at the time, and then I've moved back, and I've sort of tried to move out, um, but I just can never kind of push myself, and I don't know if it's the fact that I've read everything, I understand my background more, I understand my illness more, that I can't seem to step away from my grandparents. But I think as well, like on a relationship side, I mean, if we're talking sort of like relationships, I mean, I've been in a relationship now for almost 3 years, and he is an amazing bloke. I mean, it's a lot for him to deal with having someone who, has this mindset of, sometimes I can be a 30, 31-year-old, sometimes I can be a teenager. And, I think it's, frustrating when he doesn't quite realise. He doesn't quite realise what he's dealing with, and it's as if I don't know what I'm dealing with as well, and it's all just a bit like. But he's really supportive, and I think like obviously I think he's a little bit on the roller coaster with me, but yeah, it's hard. It's understanding, relationships need a lot of work, and I definitely admit that I forget that I'm an adult and I want to go out and do things, and he wants to be at home and have movie nights, and we game together,
Because,
and
because you've taken on a parenting role in your relationship, haven't you?
yes,
So, um, what helps you manage that role?
he does.
So he's a superstar then,
he,
Alice.
he absolutely is. So because like he's got three children, so like with teenager, it was more because it's step parenting. It's so different. So like rather than kind of going in all guns blazing and being all well, I'm your mum now. It's not kind of how it worked. So it was because her mum's in her life. I kind of tried to take over more of a big sister role than anything else. Um, so it was like, obviously being there for her, still took her to football and, all the little things that she needed, but then also making sure she had that support. If we were in the car together, if there's anything she wanted to talk about, obviously it's a bit difficult, I guess, talking to your dad, and so having that
Yeah.
approach, I think, made it a little bit easier, and kind of taking her out shopping and stuff, just kind of have that relationship with her. So having that approach with the teenager was a lot easier. But there also are two twins involved that are a lot younger, and having two of the same person can be quite a handful, to say the
And
least.
how old are they?
So, so they're 10, and oh god, they're absolutely hilarious. I call them Tweedledum and Tweedledee. I mean, my other half's a mad at her and I'm Alice. I mean, that's the only way to describe our relationships. But I mean, it's hard. I mean, I think it's harder as well because we haven't told them about the disability. We haven't kind of sat with them and gone, Alice has got this, because I think when you're that age, like especially like you've got a teenager who's going through GCSEs, I've got two twins who I think maybe it's kind of where society is as well now, but they're just quite happy just living in their own little bubble. So when I do have the struggles of maybe the discipline side of it, I do try to tell him, but I'm not the most assertive. And I also have that boundary of they're not my children. So I have to let them know that I am the adult and that boundaries are to be respected. But I usually try and tell them, and then if they carry on, I'll just go downstairs and give him a nudge, and I have to ask him to do it because I'm just not assertive at all.
Yeah, but at least you've got like a relationship where you can go, okay, right, I've done this and now I need to move on and get the support. Right,
Yeah.
there are a couple of questions coming into our chat. So before I move on, somebody said, did you have any sensory issues as a child that have improved as you've got older?
Oh my god, that is a really good question. I feel like I should tap my grandma for this one. so, so I don't like loud noises. Fireworks, balloons, party poppers, uh, concerts were just a massive no-no. I ruined Disney when I was a kid. Probably the most pointless holiday when I was a child, but I was
I've
scared of
never taken my
everything.
child there, Alice,
Oh,
because I
honestly,
think I would be wasting my money.
I feel so sorry for my grandparents. I've got so many years to make up for. Um, but and I am making it up. So so yeah, going to like shows and things, I was terrified. I was scared in case there was a bang. I was scared in case there were pyrotechnics. Um, I don't really know how. So we tried to get me for counselling, like exposure therapy for the balloons, which didn't work. So I ended up I overcame this by I was with a DJ for 5 years, and when you're DJing, you can't just go out of a room because of balloon pops. So I'm still very nervous around them. I'm still very, "Ooh, what if?" But I've learned that it's gonna pop. If I need to go out, I'll just go for a wee and I'll come back, straighten myself out, and then I'll get back to it again. And now making up for my grandma over my years, I now take her to the theatre. Um, and we go all over. So we've been to Disney on Ice, and there were loads of pyrotechnics at Disney on Ice. There were fires, there were sparks, and she even turned around to me and she went, "I can't believe that 20 years ago we'd have had to take you out of this room." And she's right. And like New Year's Eve, about 6 years ago, I pulled my first party popper, which I didn't think I'd do. And I think I just kind of, I think it might be an impulse thing, because
Don't.
I need to do it. I just want to feel it and just, I'm scared of this. What's a party popper going to do to me? Really, it's not going to do anything, and it's only a bang and it only lasts a couple of a thing. Um, but I've noticed that like now as I've got older, it's changed. So like, so even though I have those issues, like, do you know the fidget toys that are like like slime? Don't get,
Yeah, yeah.
can't go near slime. My
That pull,
nephew
that you
loves
pull like
slime.
that. Yeah.
Can't, no, can't do it. The ones that pull that are rubbery, my boys absolutely love them. Sometimes if I leave him in our bedroom, I can put my breath and it makes me cringe. It's like nails down the chalkboard for me, and I don't know where it comes from because when I was a little girl, I loved slime, but now it makes me cringe. Um, well, there's been a few little kind of things that we've noticed. It's like, and I can get like very overstimulated. So like if where I work at work, so there's 3 floors. I'm now on the middle floor and I prefer it. And if I have to go upstairs, even if it's to like go speak to another person, I find it very overwhelming because it's so busy and it's so loud, and I'm so used to the calm and the quiet on that little floor. I mean, it's going to change, and as businesses do, they expand, which is great. But in my head, I'm going, I literally can't turn around to my manager and say, "Can I go and sit downstairs because it's quiet?" Because it's not going to work. I need to be with my team at the same time.
Yeah. Amazing. Right. So, Alice, somebody else has said,
Mhm.
thank you for being on the webinar, Alice.
No
Our son
problem.
is 15 and struggles with many things, including education, um, even in a non-mainstream provision. We have not yet had him formally diagnosed with FASD, although professionals are wondering, and we are wondering, if and when to get a diagnosis. In your advocacy work, have you met anyone who wishes they didn't have a diagnosis? Has having a diagnosis ever been a disadvantage? That's like a
Oh,
big
that's a
one, isn't
really
it?
good question.
I'm
Um,
sure,
wow.
I think, I think if you pull that all back, it's like, should you get a diagnosis and is it a disadvantage? I know as an adoptive parent, I have my views, but for you as a person with FASD, what are your views?
Oh, I love that question. So for me personally, I would always say yes, go for a diagnosis. Now the reason is because a lot of our children with or who have symptoms of FASD and suspect FASD don't get the help, whereas we find a lot of people, even if it's going down the autism or the ADHD or any other sort of line to get the diagnosis, because you have to start somewhere. With that, they're getting support. And I think without a diagnosis, you're not going to get the support. So if you look at FASD as a whole, when you look at it, if you break the disability down, so yes, you have FASD, but you start looking at what um physical there is, what emotional there is, what mental there is, and then break them down even more, it will give people chance to be able to support them wherever they may struggle. But having that in concrete will mean that it'll be more recognised, which is of course what we want, but also that they can start looking and going, actually, yeah, well, they've got this, so they do need a little bit more support, rather than going, they've got this, we need support. If that make, I hope that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's totally true. I mean, I think it is hard, isn't it? Because you just
Mm-hmm.
think, do you need it or don't you? I mean, I was like, as an adoptive parent, I was pretty sure this was our diagnosis and I was going to pursue it and pursue it and pursue it and then learn how to support it going forward and make sure that we didn't end up with the secondary conditions without scaffolding support that hopefully makes things better and she will end up like you, I hope,
Exactly,
Alice.
this is it. And the biggest thing as well is when we sort of look at it from an advocacy point of view, because autism and like ADHD, and I use them two because they're the ones that always come to mind, they're so recognised. Whereas when you turn around and you say to these professionals, my child has FASD, you are advocating for your child without realising it, because you are educating somebody else to be able to, they can then go, oh, actually, yeah, I'll speak to so and so about it. So what we do is we start off a web, so that somewhere down the line, someone's going to go, actually, yeah, we need training in that, and that's where your support will come in.
I totally agree because I've taken my daughter to like multiple health professionals and I've actually found an amazing consultant for her who I
Mm-hmm.
took her to that was nothing to do with FASD. It was to do with health issues
Yeah.
that actually were ultimately to do with FASD, but initially it was just like, oh, I don't think they're to do with that. And this consultant is really high up in my local authority, one of the best within her speciality area, which is endocrinology, but knew very little about FASD. But we've actually been with her now for nearly 2 years because she was so passionate to link together these multiple health issues that we had that were obviously FAC, but
Mm-hmm.
otherwise you've got to go, oh, you've got to go here, you've got to go there. And all I thought, like, she can't fix anything, but do you know what? To just have one professional who listens and supports and is actually talking to other people about the FASD that's affected this patient she's got in these bizarre ways. I'm like, well, hopefully somebody else, some family following us, will have more understanding and a consultant who's more empathetic or more willing to talk, really.
No, that's it. I completely agree. Completely agree.
Right, okay, let's move on to advocacy and support. So, have you found it easy or hard to explain your diagnosis to others?
Yes and no. This was a even a difficult one for me to kind of answer. So I can explain FASD, I can explain what starts it, and I can explain it in a scientific way. I can't explain how it affects me. Unless if I have conversations like this, until I have open questions, until I have people like you guys who are coming to me going, what does this, what does this, like the sensory issues are not even in my answers, because I never thought about it when I was putting the answers down. But I mean, because it's such a complex disability, because it's so broad and there's so many kind of like subcategories within it, and so many different diagnoses within FASC. If someone turns around to me and goes, how does it affect you? The first thing I can think of is concentration, because that's what my grandma told me years ago. But I can't sit there and go, oh, because I'm like, oh, but like, it's so bizarre because it's my
So
disability.
I think it's really hard. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like for you as a person with the diagnosis, but I know for me as a parent, trying my best to understand it, I constantly have to go, oh, oh. And I've got a teenage daughter, 15 this month, with hormones flying all over and everything else. And she's now, she's that typical spiky profile, very good expressive language, very poor receptive, academics all over the place, but looks normal, talks normal. And I hope Alice will be like you one day. But we have that like roller coaster thing where it's really hard because trying to talk to her about FASD, and she's quite getting that advocate voice in terms of talking about her brain, but I can just see, even just with my own child, how complex that can be. But having said that, we've got a couple of questions coming up. So, one is when you become overwhelmed in situations or dysregulated, unregulated, how have you managed to self-regulate and what works for you? I've got an answer to this actually, but not for
That
me.
is that's a really good question. So at work, I tend to get overwhelmed because a lot of changes. Business is growing; it's fantastic. But a lot of it is just taking a bit of time out and to understand it. So, understanding why the changes are happening. I can't just be told something. I need the full breakdown of what's going on. Um, so it's like, why is this happening? What's going to happen next? So that my anxiety is feeling a little bit better. So, um, like the changes at the moment is I might have a new manager because I'm off work at the moment, because it's my birthday on Friday, so I took the week off, as you do. So it's like I'm gonna go back and there's gonna be changes and I don't know what the changes are. So I've emailed my manager to actually say to her, I give you consent to ring me outside of work in case it falls back on her, which I'd like to hope it will do, to be able to message me of any changes that happen because for me it's important that I get a full understanding and a full picture of what's happening. If you imagine a jigsaw, if you tell someone and something's going to happen and you imagine it as a jigsaw, if you've got a missing piece or jigsaw's not complete, and you spend ages trying to find that missing piece until it's found, and that is essentially what how mine is. Um, and we had another one where it was dropped on, and this is where I learnt the lesson with me, because even I didn't realise it was an FASD thing. I thought I was just being awkward. But I had a new manager and it happened so quickly, and I had such a good relationship with my previous manager. Again, things change, business is flowing, it's great. But because I didn't really know the manager who I was getting, even though it was an opportunity for me to actually get to know the manager, I had a massive anxiety attack. I was taken out in this chair. I was just absolutely overwhelmed with the fact that it was dropped on us, which it happens. It's a very business thing to do. But for me, it was like the complete end of the world. I was so dysregulated. It took me ages to get back to my desk and to get working. It took not just my manager then, but my ops manager to try and work out why I was the way that I was. And because I didn't go down the route of understanding what FASD is and we didn't quite understand it as we do now, it was just basically put down to anxiety. Whereas now we understand it's a dysregulation from not understanding and not getting a full picture of everything that's happening. I've always said, obviously, if things happen, which, like I say, business changes, managers aren't going to know everything either. So just make sure that as everything comes in, do keep me informed. But it's like even kind of like at home, like if something happens, I just need to know, and I try my best. If I don't know anything, I'll research it until I know it black and blue. I need it in like this. Like these are my answers to the questions. I know exactly what I want to say. Because it's made
Well,
it
it's like
less
you and I, didn't
overwhelming.
we? Like you and I, we like talked. I sent you questions, and I'm like very mindful that, we've got questions in the chat, but we did pre-agreed questions. So I'm filtering in the ones that I feel, follow on from where your mind is, rather than throw you into complete dysregulation and you're going,
Oh,
oh, you didn't say
so
that.
I'm into it. Let's go. I mean, I'm so ready for these questions.
Right. Okay. Here you go then. So here's two. One person said, what's the good thing about having FASD?
It's I think it's about learning about yourself, and the more that I've learned over these past couple of years has helped me to unmask it. And um, I don't mean to blow my own trumpet, but I'm quite funny, which I
You
don't
are.
mean to be. I don't mean to be funny, but like if I'm like sat because like if I'm like sat at my desk or if I'm sat in meetings and stuff, and then I don't have, realize I do stuff, but like my manager will just like she'll either roll her eyes at me and like she'll just be like, oh, for God's sake, not again, or like I'll just have the whole team in absolute fits of laughter. I don't even realize what I've done. I'm looking at
But do
everyone
you
going, what
think
have I done
that's
now?
like, do you think that's like no filter stuff? Like,
I think
you
it's
just know,
filter with
you
an
just say
extent.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, like I'm very mindful about what I say at work. So I've got like one of the directors behind me, but I'm still very kind of like sometimes I don't realise what I've said, or it could be where I've not thought about it. So like I'll know something, but I'll have to might have worded it differently and things like that. So that's definitely a very common thing, and and I think even like the negative stuff though can be quite good because we've learned how to laugh in the face of FASD. We've learned how to um because I'm getting a lot of help overcoming things, but like if I do have a moment, we do just laugh it off. Like if I do get dysregulated or like, are you okay? And I'll just laugh and I'll tell you in 10 minutes. I'll wait for it to start. And I even wear t-shirts to work. So I've got a t-shirt in my wardrobe that says "Let me overthink this." So it's like we laugh at the negative stuff, and I think yes, having FASDs and it with the way it's diagnosed and how it's preventable, yeah, it's a really rubbish thing to have. But by the time you get to this stage, you've got it, and you learn to kind of manage the like the negative side of it and bringing it into a positive side. So yeah, and we're really creative as well. And I think this is a big thing that people kind of tend to overlook is yes, we have our moments and we're not always the best at school and we get dysregulated and all this, but you know, we're creative and our brains are wired differently. So, like when I was at work and I was in a meeting with the director and I just turned around and went, well, can't we get AI to do it? And turns out we're getting AI. In fact, we're now working AI, but it was because I turned around and thought, oh, this might be a good idea. Um, you know, it was obviously thought about it before I did, but I thought I was being an intellectual. But the way that my brain had processed something and being able to come out of an answer like that is not something people would have thought of. And again, it's down to the wiring our brain. We're so different, and we can come out with such intelligent answers and work things so
You're
differently.
amazing, Alice, because you're amazing, as are many, many people. And I'm just going to ask you this. We're
Mhm.
coming right to the end. So somebody's just posted in our chat, Alice, you are so inspiring.
Thank you.
You and this webinar will help so many individuals with FASD and their families. And the question is, who inspires you and why?
Oh, I don't know.
Calm and think.
That's a bit. That is a that's wild. I don't really think I have anyone in particular who inspires me. I think if I'm gonna go to anyone, it's gonna have to be my grandparents. But
But
trying to kind
that's
of
lovely, isn't it? Because they've been the people there with you, raising you, and
Yeah, and
supporting you and
yeah, well, this is it, and they see me all the time when I'm not at work or when I'm not like trying to do exciting things and I'm not at like conferences and things like that. But I mean, and like it's all the people that are involved in the advocacy I'm inspired by as well, though, because now that I've learned to unmask and I've learned to kind of live with it and be open about it means when I'm hearing other people's stories as well, it's like you inspire and on if I'm on a Facebook page and people are commenting in there going, oh well, there's a blockade here and I can't seem to get to where I want to be. And for me, it's like you've inspired me to do something, little things like that. Like I will be on that person. I can't even find my notebook, but I've got a notebook just rammed of things that I'd find on the internet and on any social media, and I go, right, that needs sorting. You've inspired me to actually make a move.
because you're driven, aren't you, to like improve outcomes for people.
Yeah.
So I have another question. So what do you think parents and carers can do now to help their children to prepare for adulthood?
Be
What are
honest.
the most important things?
Be honest with them. Just be honest. My advice is be honest. And when you are explaining about the changes that's going to happen, and if you're in a meeting, break the explanation down for your child. That was when I go into meetings, even as an adult, I have to have things that are breaking down. Can you say that differently? Is there a simpler way you can explain it? Can you explain it to me in steps? Um, some of our children may help with visuals. Some of our children help with like an instruction booklet. Um, yes, it can be a bit overwhelming changing from school to college or to work, but having a simple process will help it and will help your child become less dysregulated throughout the process. But also to have the conversation with their tutors as well and explain to them how your child's brain works and explain to them what they can put into place to be able to help them succeed at college. The same with school as well. Like, with work, I mean, I'm not going to expect you to phone the manager, but if there's anything that you can put in place at work or that they can put in place at work that can come from you, maybe again, like an instruction booklet, a breakdown of your child, then that should hopefully ease the process for them.
And I guess the final question then is, what do you hope to do in the future on your now journey of advocacy? What would you like to change in the FASD community, and where do you see your future being to help?
Oh, well, without bringing politics into it, um, I would like Stephen Tim's job if I could. But I'd like to. I want to see more. I want leaflets. I want billboards. I want we've had like I don't know if anyone watched the A Word on BBC. And it was a fantastic you know document fiction about a kid with autism, and he was beautiful. And yes, we have to be so careful in how we are with FASD because it's so complex. But I think to have something on TV that isn't just an episode of EastEnders or an episode of Hollyoaks, something that's going to really shed a light on it to be able to understand it more. Like you've got Rossi, he was, on the makeup thing on BBC One, and he got an award, and he's going out there now, and he's entertaining the idea of advocating for himself. He's doing educational conferences. You've got Maggie May, who's now currently in somewhere in Canada, and but because we're so limited in what we can do and how we can advocate because of the way the government have their funding, and the way the NHS don't have any funding for it. That it's not commissioned by the NHS. But to keep fighting and keep educating, the more professionals we educate, the more, even just like the awareness of not drinking. Australia, they have TV adverts telling you not to drink. The same that we have drink driving and we have gambling, they have FASD. We can't have that because of the UK laws. The UK law states that have no rights until you are born, which is very unfair, which is why we are, struggling so much. But to be able to break a barrier would be fantastic. That would be a celebration, that. To just do something the government would hate.
Well, Alice, do you know what? You need to get together with Rossi and Maggie May, and there's the change makers over in Canada, and we need the change makers here, whether it's people like you and parents and advocates. I think together collectively, the more voices, the more change. We can't be, crusaders in our own right, wanting our own, trying to be the person who's the most important. It really has to be a collective collaboration. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you so much. Can't thank you enough. And I hope you will come back and join us again. And I hope we'll continue to be involved and definitely connect with other people within our community. So thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.